find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Oh, we can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. You know, it would help for me to add to myself to the stage to not have like a little second of black screen there, but I'll get there someday. I may be a pro someday, but I'm definitely not today. Oh man, what a day. What a day. We were all over the place. Hey, Baca, welcome in. Deanna, Squeegee, good to see you as always, my friend. Dizzy, Kikaru. Hey, Joe, what do you know? I know a little bit went on in court today. A little bit went on before court, too. A little bit went on before court, too. Who else do we have in here? Janelle's in here, too. Is Janelle really in here? Wow. And Kim. That's a good question. I'm going to star that one, Kim, for later because it's speculation. A lot of stuff is speculation now. There was a lot of speculation Monday night. But if you know that I was in court for jury selection today. I also was in court for not jury selection on Monday. We had a little talk about that. And then we had a special members only live last night. It was just a short one, a little under an hour probably. Oh, thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that. Lorianne, hi, welcome in. Jamie, welcome in. I know who you are. Deanna May, lots of people, everybody welcome in. Anyway, welcome in. We have a lot to go over. We have a lot to unpack today about what went on before court and what went on after court. Allison Pruitt, hi there. And of course, Joanne M. Jedi Platypus. Ooh, I got it right the second time. Jedi Platypus. That's an awesome name. Always has been. Arizona Mermaid, Teresa. Good to see everybody. Too many people to say hi to. Too many people. Like I could eat up like a 15 minutes. Salty Sleuth, though, my OG friend from the beginning, always encouraging, always supportive of Joe Schmo. So Salty, good to see you in here. We have some things, very interesting things that happened today. We had some documents come down first thing before the doors even open to the courthouse. So the doors open to the courthouse at 7:30 in the morning, and I got these documents at like 7 a.m. Well, I'm sitting on the courthouse steps waiting to get in. I'm doing work because I have other work that I need to be doing, and when you get there really early, and then the doors open at 7:30, and then you don't even get into the courtroom till after 10 o'clock, you can get some work done. But I'm also checking the websites, and the Minute Entry site had a couple of interesting documents. And if you follow me on X, you saw those documents earlier in the day. You saw those documents really, really early, like way before anybody else posted them. I claim that victory. I'll claim it all day long because it requires a lot of work staying on top of stuff. And Lauren from Hidden True Crime is always first in line for the media. And she was up there with her producer, and I was like, have you seen these documents? And apparently they were up late working on the manhunt for the dad that killed his 3 daughters. And so they hadn't been, she said they were working on that till like 1 a.m. and they hadn't had a chance to get on the docket. So I gave them a little tip because that's what we do. Squeegee, you know the phrase, the rising tide raises all boats. So she went and did a live about those new documents. And in the meantime, a lot of people thought that those documents were for today, but they were not. They were for Monday. They came down today, but the way the court postings, yes, she did, sis. She absolutely did. She probably gave me too many shout outs. She said Joe Schmo probably like 6 or 7 times in her live, and I appreciate that very much, Lauren. Thank you. All due credit was given, and I appreciate that very much. She's got like 280,000 subscribers. That's crazy. I hit 2,000. I am grateful for that, and I'm grateful for all of my subscribers. Very much so, and all of the new members. Forrest Nelson, you gifted out 5 memberships during my my lunchtime update, and I appreciate that very much. We've got a good community, a very, very good community. True, Squeegee. Yep, we will raise the community together. And this is a great chat, and I have great mods, and I never have to worry about crazy things in my chat yet. I mean, I'm sure we'll get there. Oh, that's a high compliment. That's high praise from those two. High praise for sure. But also last night, just while people are trickling in here, last night I did a members only live where I dropped a document about juror number 15 in the 2021 case because a document came down. So for everybody that's not a member, I just want to run over that real quickly. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But it is impactful. And I actually did get a question in one of my YouTubes about that. So let me no, that's not it. That's not it. Here we go. Yes, this is it. It's a 2-page document, and the second page is just signatures. So it will happen very quick. But let me play the video first. If you remember, juror number 15 was the one that came out after the verdict, and he was interviewed on the sidewalk in one place by a mob of reporters. And he and the other gal that was with him got interviewed, and then he moved down the sidewalk towards the crosswalk, and he got interviewed again by Fox 10, and he said something that got my attention right off the bat. Why can I not present? There we go. The present button wasn't working. I was freaking out. And now that's not open. All right. StreamYard's giving me just a speck of trouble. Give me 10 seconds to figure it out. You've got 10 seconds to figure it out. Is that how it goes? Boop, 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 boop. Got to type fast to get it done in 10 seconds. It may be 15. Can you hear my mouse going clickety, clickety, click? Toot, toot, toot. Wait. We're going to do this one first, and then we'll do that one. So we got to rearrange. Here we go. All right. This is the clip that I prepared with captions, so it would be easier. Hello. Nope. Stop. So it'd be easier to follow along with the words that he is responding to the reporter. And like I said, most of you have already seen this. Oh, wait, Trial TV Live. What is that? Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Welcome in Ruby and Janelle. Got a membership. Missy, Baca, Susie. So I got criticism on my lunchtime live today, which I accepted very graciously. They said if it was very, and they didn't use the word annoying, but I read between the lines it was annoying that I kept interrupting the sentence, mid-sentence of whatever I was talking about to say hi to the members that were in chat. So I will take that constructive criticism and remember it next time and try not to do that so much. But this is not a lot. This is not an impromptu live. This is like a back and forth between me and you guys. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to recognize people that are friends of the channel. And I appreciate all of the generosity very much. So now that I found what I was looking for, we can play it. And that, because I had to have that explanation, that took way more than 10 seconds. But here we go. Let's not mute that.
Yeah. Do you remember your reaction learning that she has been convicted in killing her 2 children?
You know, I feel sorry for her. You know, I mean, driving home yesterday, I was like, God, she's spending the rest of the next 3 lives in prison in a cell. You know, I mean, you got to feel sorry for her, even though, I mean, that's awful thing to do. I mean, there's something wrong up here, but what do you say? Still, you know,
what do you say? Did you hear that? Whoever's in the studio while the boots on the ground reporter is interviewing him, they go, "Whoa, what do you say?" And that's exactly what I said. And if you remember that, trial recap that day. Thank you, Dizzy. When they did the trial recap that day, I had the same reaction. And we had to go back and listen to it again. And then that's when I came up with this little clip. So, Juror 15 made his way into a defense filing for a new trial. We went over that in detail last night. I'm not going to do that tonight because we have so much to go over for today. And then he made his way into the state's response to the defense's motion for a new trial. And then he made his way into the judge's ruling on the 2 motions, or on the motion and the response. And then, so a couple of days ago, this document came down, which is what we went over last night on the Members Only Live. I think this is it. Nope. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. This is what we did. This is what came down. So it's dated it was filed 5/29, but I didn't see it until like 2 days ago. So June 2nd-ish. I think. This is the state's motion to file juror affidavit in support of state's response to motion for new trial under seal. So Trina K is saying, we have an affidavit to file from the juror, and we don't want anybody to see anything in that document. The state of Arizona, through undersigned counsel, obtained an affidavit from juror 15. He's been in four court documents post-verdict now, in support of state's response to defendant's motion for a new trial. This affidavit contains juror 15's name and date of birth. For these reasons, the state requests permission to file under seal. So if you look at a lot of court documents, or if you file some court documents, which I have experience with both, that's sensitive information, and that absolutely should not be divulged in a public record. But you know how they usually handle that? They usually handle that with a redaction. So we're going to talk about that in 1 second, Lorianne Good. That's an excellent question. We're going to get there just as soon as I'm done talking about this motion by Trina K to file the entire document, the entire affidavit under seal. That's not necessary. And I don't think that serves the public's interest in knowing what juror 15 testified or swore to in his affidavit. And there were some thoughts, some comments on some of the things that I posted on this, where people were saying, well, he needs to get brought in front of the judge and he needs to be sworn under oath, or he needs to testify under oath. Well, that's kind of what an affidavit is. Affiant being duly sworn testifies to the following is kind of how most of the language goes on affidavits. So he swore to the truth of what he was telling Trina K in that affidavit. But I want to see it. I think her motion is overly broad. She does not need to seal the entire document. She can censor out his name and date of birth and address, social security number, whatever else is in there that's sensitive information. She can do that. All right, let's talk about the juror 15 that I found in the jury pool back on Monday. And actually, I'm pretty sure I saw him on Friday too, and I just had a gut feeling about him. And he was the one on Monday that came over and stood right behind the public. And somebody who was standing next to confirmed that. So I'm just going to explain that really quick. So they have two large trials going on at the same time on opposing courtrooms. Like 5D is where Lori's at, and 5C right across. And from that is another big trial. Their jury pool wasn't as big. Their jury pool was probably like 30 something. And Lori's started out at like 68. So, double what the other one was. But they brought in the other jury for the other trial and lined them up behind our public seating area, public and media seating area, so they could go into that courtroom before they allowed Lori's jury pool to go into 5D. And this guy comes around and he stands, acts like he's going to be in that jury pool for the other trial, but then he backs out of it and he comes over and stands right behind the seats, and he puts down his notebook and his juror number on the floor and kind of looks around, and he may be lost. He may not have done this intentionally. He may have misidentified where he was supposed to go line up before going in the courtroom. It may not have been intentional. Yes, Allison, juror 15 was the one whose phone went off, and he was texting during court, and he was talking about Social Security. He had all of those problems before he voted along with a guilty verdict and went out and said what he said to the media. So that's all the same guy. And I just had a feeling about him from the beginning, and I had a feeling about this guy. So this guy, I found out today, was juror number 85. So the way that Judge Bereski runs his juror pools, and it's probably a random assignment of juror numbers. All 66 or 68 of them, so which is why I don't know how they got up to 85. But he was next to the last. So when they come into the courtroom, when they finally came into so the other jury went into their courtroom, and then Lori's juror pool came into that one. All right, Squeegee. So our jury came into our courtroom, and they file in from 1 to 87 or 88 in order. So the jury box holds 18 seats. In Lori's trial, they're seating 16, but they go ahead and seat 18 juries in the actual juror box, where they're going to be sitting and watching the trial throughout its entirety. And the rest of them they put in the gallery. So there are a ton of extra jurors on Monday sitting in the gallery, and very limited seats for the media and the public. They let the media have like 11, and they let the public have like 12 of those seats for watching jury selection. And as we know, Monday, nothing happened in jury selection. But today was a different story. And we know that Lori threw a fit on Monday, said she can't proceed, and the judge sent out all of the parties, the defense and the prosecution teams, including Lori, all left the court. And then they brought the jury in, and then the judge apologized profusely. He said, "This has never happened to me before in my career." Yes. And we know sometime earlier in that little bit that she threw, because we watched that video from that hearing, we know that she said, "So are you going to come?" So he said, "We're going to go Wednesday." And she said, "So if I'm not better, are you going to come down and drag me out of my cell?" And he's like, "Yep." And then she's like, "Well, are you come down and check on me and see how bad off I am?" And he's like, "I think I'll pass on that." So that was an interesting little exchange between them that led to us all going home early, which did not happen today. But all of the drama before court was from these two documents. So I'm going to close out the one about Trina K's motion, and we're going to look what came down this morning. So it's dated on the actual court filing or issuance of an order or minute entry. In this case, minute entry is dated June 2nd. It was filed electronically June 4th. So this is maybe explaining some of what went on between the judge and Lori. No, let's look at this one first. This one came down. This one had to have come down from the judge in the morning. And the way that I see it going is the sheriff's deputy or one of the detention officers comes in and says, "All right, Lori, it's time for court." And she's like, "I'm too sick. I can't go to court today." And they're like, and she's like, "I told my team yesterday that I was too sick, and I'm too sick again today." And the detention officer is like, "All right, I'll tell the court." And he tells the court, and Judge Bereski's like, "It is ordered authorizing the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to transport the defendant to court using any means necessary, to include force, to secure the attendance of the defendant for his or her trial on June 2nd, 2025. So this was Monday, before the Honorable Justin Boreski, Courtroom 5D, South Court Tower. So, using any means necessary. Oh my goodness. So when I saw that, I was like, holy cow. And it took me a minute to realize this was not for this morning, even though it came down this morning. And after I did my little live, I came back and read through them again and again and again. This was obviously before court, because she showed up in court and she said, you drugged me down here. Are you going to drag me down here like you did this morning? Right, Janelle? Judge Boreski is like not having it. He is not having it. We have the video from this morning's hearing before jury selection started. Yeah, Carolina, I think it's more of a father and petulant, maybe teenager. And there are people that have said, people that know her well, that and grew up with her, that have said she never matured beyond her like high school years, like emotionally matured. And it looks like that from all of these interactions. It looks like it from all of these interactions. So that was before court on Monday morning. She gets in there, she does her, I can't proceed, I can't do it, I'm sick. And then he asks the deputy that's in there, the MCSO deputy that's in there, well, have you guys performed any medical evaluations? And he goes, something like, I don't know, I can check, but it'll probably take 24 hours. So the judge issues this order on Monday. So once again, it's filed on the 4th, but it's dated the 2nd. So this is for Monday. It would be beneficial to the parties and the court to have some objective measures of the extent of the defendant's illness. The court requests Maricopa County Sheriff's Office direct qualified medical personnel to assess the defendant within the next 24 hours. The court is not requiring the MCSO to divulge any HIPAA protected information. However, Ms. Daybell may be required to produce some form of objective information if she is seeking any continuance beyond Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. It is ordered waiving any copay to the extent there may be a copay from the defendant required. So they're not, the money thing isn't an issue, but the objective, let's see, objective measures of the extent of the defendant's illness. Yeah, they're not putting a thermometer on a light bulb. Thank you, Trace. Trace on the case in the house. Happy birthday. Everybody say happy birthday to Trace on the case. It was her birthday yesterday. Everybody give her some love. She's been going to court with me every day. Up early. Way early. Trial TV live with the same thing. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the video from this morning. So Court TV was in the house. They set up their camera early on, and there were some other people that tapped into the pool court feed. And I was like, I wonder if that's premature, but it wasn't, because they can't record any interactions with the jury, like in jury selection, but they could record the hearing this morning, and they did. And so you all can see for yourself. I'm going to give a little narrative of it beforehand from a first-person perspective. Actually, you know what? Let's just watch the video, and then we can comment, and I can fill in any things and answer any questions that you guys might have about what a person inside the courtroom saw. So first of all, when we went in there, I'm just going to say this. She was already seated, so I couldn't tell if she was in a wheelchair or not. So I asked a couple of the other media people, and they're like, No, she's not in a wheelchair. I'm like, oh, okay. She's not in a wheelchair. That's a new development. Let's watch. So this is East Idaho News got a hold of the footage from the pool camera, and we're going to watch theirs. And I'm not going to comment a whole lot the first time through like I usually do. I want to let everybody develop their own thoughts and theories, and probably a lot of you already seen it. So, but you haven't had a chance to comment in here, so you can watch it now and comment in here and talk about Lori all night long. So we're going to see Carl at first, but I'm going to skip on over to the next. No, you know what? I'm going to skip over first, and then we don't have to see Carl again. Boop, boop, boop. Share this. There we go. And this is the morning hearing.
All right, we're going on the record, State of Arizona versus Lori Daybell, CR 2022-001242. Can I have appearances, please?
Trina Kay on behalf of the state, and for the record, the victim is present in the courtroom.
Daybell for the defense.
All right, I'm going to need you to scoot up to that microphone. We also have present in the courtroom a representative from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Do you want to announce?
Yes, Your Honor. Joseph V. Hill on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and Correctional Health Services.
All right, after court on Monday, immediately after court, I ordered the Sheriff's Office to provide some sort of medical assessment of the defendant. I received a pleading late yesterday afternoon indicating that Correctional Health Services examined the defendant around 12:30 p.m. yesterday. The defendant was treated for one condition, and Correctional Health Services has indicated that from a medical standpoint, we do not find any clinical indications to miss court. Is that correct, Mr. Vigil?
Yes, Your Honor, and we have additional information if you need it, but it's not much. But
all right. All right, let me turn to the defendant.
This is like a HIPAA violation coming up.
Your Honor, first of all, can all of this be sealed? Anything that having to do with my medical? I don't think that's something that all of this needs to be sealed, including the minute entry and
Hold on.
the response from MCSO, all these things.
I can seal the response from MCSO, yeah, but to the extent, well, do you have any other information you want to provide me as to why you're not medically able to proceed? Right now, the only objective information I have is that you were assessed and CHS sees no clinical indications of why you need to miss court.
They told me
If it's
that
something you want to discuss on sidebar, we can do that.
that would be great.
All right, I'll ask.
AJ's in the house. Hey, AJ. She was there watching with us today. It's good to see you there. Have a safe trip back home. That's funny that you can't hear the white noise on the pool cam. Well, it's because the camera is actually in a different room that's behind the gallery. So it's soundproof from there. So all they get audio wise is what comes in from the microphones. But when you're sitting in the court, there's white noise blasting you during this entire sidebar. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Okay, all right. Let's see where we get done with this sidebar. It was a lengthy sidebar. It's like 5 minutes long. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Doing some Bob loops. We don't need to be playing Jeopardy music. We'll get copyright struck for that. Is there anything? Look at, what is that? All right, we got to see that.
Intends on proceeding with
Oh, I wasn't going to comment. I'm not
jury
going to.
selection today. Depending
I
on
got 30
how
seconds.
things
I'm not
go,
going
I
to
don't
comment
know
this
that I-
time.
Intends on proceeding with jury selection today. Depending on how things go, I don't know that I would make the parties do their opening statements or not, but that remains to be seen today. The court finds that the court has not been provided any objective medical information of why the defendant can't proceed today. Although the defendant expressed that she has a headache and is not able to proceed, she was able to fully advocate on her own behalf and articulate to me the reasons why she doesn't think she can proceed, and seems to be of sound mind and ability to proceed. So we're going to bring the jury in. How many jurors do we have? Are there? We're still missing 6. Mr. Vigil, you can be excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll give those jurors a few more minutes.
Okay, so we'll go back and watch that one more time, and this time I may stop and comment once or twice. You all have very relevant comments too, but it's short, especially when I get reminded to to fast forward through the silent sidebar part. Let's go back and watch it one more time, because really it's only like 5 minutes total of footage, but then there's something that goes on after this that is off the record, and it's off of the microphones. And I was sitting with the media, so I was in the very back row and I couldn't hear it very well, but I got asked about it by one of the other people that were in the court, and they heard something different than me, but the two things might actually be connected. So we'll talk about this after we watch it one more time and comment about how ridiculous it is. No objective clinical medical reason was found by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. None. All right, here we go. Back to the beginning. One more time, and then we'll talk about other things from your courtroom insider.
All right, we're going on the record, State of Arizona versus Lori Vallow, CR 2022-001242. Can I have appearances, please?
Trina Kay on behalf of the state and for the record, the victim is present in the courtroom.
Right.
Daybell for the defense.
All right, I'm going to need you to scoot up to that microphone.
Ms. Daybell,
We also
for the
have present in
defense.
the courtroom a representative from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Do you want to announce?
Yes, Your Honor. Joseph Vigil on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and Correctional Health Services.
All right, after court on Monday, immediately after court, I ordered the Sheriff's Office to provide some sort of medical assessment of the defendant. I received a pleading late yesterday afternoon indicating that Correctional Health Services examined the defendant around 12:30 p.m. yesterday. The defendant was treated for one condition, and Correctional Health Services has indicated that from a medical standpoint, we do not find any clinical indications to miss court. Is that correct, Mr. Vigil?
Yes, Your Honor, and we have additional information if you need it, but it's not much. But
All right. All right, let me turn to the defendant.
This is like a HIPAA violation coming up.
Your Honor, first of all,
Wait, was that Mike Abernathy? Or I think his name is Michael Abernathy. I always mix up his first name. I'm just going to say Mr. Abernathy from now on, because I always mix it up. That's so her advisory co-advisory council is seated right next to her. This is unusual. Her paralegal was to her left sometimes today, and Pam Hicks is all the way back here behind her to the left. Other co-advisory counsel or advisory co-counsel. I think he says something to her about a HIPAA violation. So I'm going to back up just a couple seconds and see if we can hear that.
This is probably going to be a HIPAA violation coming up here.
Your Honor, first of all.
So you remember last hearing, he brought up a point, an objection about something that he wanted her to make, and she just wasn't like landing it. And the judge kept saying, nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right. And Mr. Abernathy was like talking into her left ear, and then she would say something and the judge would be like, nope. He's like loudly talking loud enough now that the microphone can pick him up. And this may be what's leading up to that little thing that happened after we went off the record at the end of this. I didn't hear that. You can't hear that in the courtroom. You can't hear what's going over the microphones. You can only hear, at least not as well as we're hearing it on this stream. I got to back up one more time to hear that, because he's talking loud enough to be picked up at the microphone, and I would not be surprised if Judge Boreski is annoyed by that, because he's kind of like making an argument, but he's not allowed to make arguments because he's advisory counsel. He is not the defendant's counsel. He is not the lawyer for the defense or a lawyer for the defense.
It's not much, but.
All right. All right, let me turn to the defendant.
This is probably going to be a HIPAA violation coming up here.
So he says something
Your
about
Honor,
HIPAA violation.
First of all, can all of this be sealed? Anything that having to do with my medical? I don't think that's something that all of this needs to be sealed, including the minute entry and
Hold on.
the response from MCSO, all these things.
I can seal the response from MCSO, yeah, but to the extent, well, do you have any other information you want to provide me as to why you're not medically able to proceed? Right now, the only objective information I have is that you were assessed and CHS sees no clinical indications of why you need to miss court.
They told me
If it's
that
something you want to discuss on sidebar, we can do that.
that would be great.
All right, I'll ask.
Okay, now it's time to bloop, bloop, bloop through the sidebar, because it lasts a long time.
On proceeding.
Here we go. So, she was complaining about whatever non-clinical objective symptoms she's having that might prevent her from representing herself. He says
Intends on proceeding with jury selection today.
Nate's East Idaho News is like right over Judge Boreski. Like we can't even see Judge Boreski. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot. Shout out for giving us this footage, though. This is not FDR footage. This is pool camera footage. So I've got to get on that list now to be able to get that distributed from Court TV. Last time I asked for it, they ignored me. So I got to be a little bit more proactive in tracking down that ability to receive that.
Okay. Depending on how things go, I don't know that I would make the parties do their opening statements or not, but that remains to be seen today. The court finds that the court has not been provided any
So, time is it? It's interesting that the camera guy knows enough to zoom in on this mess. Laying her head down on her arms on her desk because she has such a horrible headache that she just can't proceed. I wonder if Judge Boreski might have caused a little bit of that headache by telling her no. Would that give her a headache? I'm sorry, Lori, you can't get what you want. That probably gives her a little bit of a headache. Well, I wonder what's the cure for that. A little zap from the rack belt. Did I say that out loud? That probably wouldn't cure the headache, actually. But I heard a word in the off-record thing that was related to that, but that's the only word I heard, and somebody else told me they heard something else. So let's see. But I just noticed that Mr. Abernathy was talking loud enough to be picked up in her microphone during that last exchange with Judge Boreski. So we'll talk about what happened off the record, and we'll talk about it when we're done with this.
Objective medical information of why the defendant can't proceed today. Although the defendant expressed that she has a headache and is not able to proceed, she was able to fully advocate on her own behalf and articulate to me the reasons why she doesn't think she can proceed, and seems to be of sound mind and ability to proceed. So we're going to bring the jury in. How many jurors do we have? We're still missing 6. Mr. Vigil, you can be excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll give those jurors a few more minutes.
And we go off the record. All right. So what happens next is off the record. Judge Boreski gets up and disappears through the back door, which is what he usually does when... Oh, hold on. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, we'll be at recess. So he gets up, walks out the back door, which he's got to do his little flashcard key fob thing at the ring entry thing to get through his back door. And then a couple of seconds later, he comes out through a side door, and Pam Hicks gets up from her chair behind Lori and comes and stands around and kind of off to the side in front of her and is giving her like a sympathetic look. And she's complaining about something to Mr. Abernathy. And then something is said to the deputy that's the one that brings Lori in and out. And I would guess that he's probably got the remote control to the rack belt. Like if I were holding an auction and I were going to find one person to bribe for control of that rack belt, it would probably be that guy. But judge says something, Mr. Abernathy says something, and that deputy says something. And I heard from Mr. Abernathy the word ibuprofen. 99% sure that's what I heard, and that's the only word I heard in that conversation. But somebody else came up to me during the break after that, and said, I heard Mr. Abernathy say that's not even legal. And then the judge looked back at him and kind of rolled his eyes and walked back out through that side door. So I'm wondering if she wasn't requesting some type of medication to help with her headache. And they couldn't do it because it wasn't dispensed through the jail infirmary. We'll get to that in a second, Renee. Anyway, those are my, what are you guys' thoughts on what might have happened in that exchange between the judge and Abernathy? And I heard the word ibuprofen, and this other person said that's not even legal. Like, was he advocate? Is he like becoming a real advocate for her, for Lori, and being like she's not being treated fairly? Because Pam Hicks was actually looking very concerned for her and very sympathetic. So I don't know if it's working on them or if they're doing their job. But it was an interesting exchange off the record leading up to the break. Checking chat now for your thoughts. There was that question, Dizzy, where did that question go that you had up a second ago? Are the public going to be allowed in? So yes, there are 45 seats available to the public. So there are a total of 75 seats in the gallery. This is not Judge Beresky's original courtroom. His original courtroom only has 30 seats. So this has 2.5 times the number of seats. The front rows on both sides are reserved for families of the defendant and families of the victim. And the victim is still alive, so he takes up one of those seats. And sometimes they take up more of those seats, and they get those seats always, which is fine with me, obviously. And then the back row is taken up by media, so that's 15 for the media. So that leaves the 45, the middle and the 45, middle 45, the 45 in the middle for the public. And it is literally first come, first serve. So there's a process that they have evolved with over time that is kind of frustrating. They did a different system for jury selection, and they said once you get in a seat, it's your seat for the day. But then they were also releasing more jurors and more jurors and more jurors because the jury was taking up half of the gallery. So as they released jurors, they released 8 after the first session, and then they released everybody but the 16 after they seated the jury, around 2:00, I think 2:07. That's crazy to me, though. So yes, the public is allowed in on a first come, first served basis. That is the court order for court decorum in this trial, and it was for the last one too. And that's kind of a cool thing about having been to every single day of the first trial. And so far, every single day of these pre-trial hearings, I've gotten to know some of the court security, and some of them are pretty cool people. I don't always agree with the way that they handle first come, first serve. Forrest, what's that? Forrest, thank you so much. That's actually 2 lunches at the courthouse. I had a turkey wrap and a Coke today, and it was $12. And somebody actually gave me like a $12 super chat at lunch during my lunch live. And that was awesome. That worked out perfectly. And I appreciate that very much. Boss Lady, welcome in. Boss Lady is a new YouTube member. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. I'm going to keep working on members only content. My members got exclusive information on Juror 15 last night before all of the rest of you got it today. Good night, Baca. Thanks for joining us. Okay, there we go. Did the juror I mentioned as being the new Juror 15 get picked for jury duty? No, he did not. He was juror number 85, so he was like next to last for being picked for jury duty, because they literally go in order of chances of being selected from 1 to whatever the highest number is, and he was at the end. So he did not get picked. He thought he was funny. I think my instincts were right. When they went to lunch, they're supposed to take their juror numbers and their notebooks with them. He left his in the gallery where he was sitting down, because he's overflow. So he sat down like in the gallery. He left his notebook and his number there. You're not supposed to do that. He didn't care. He's intelligent enough to know what he's supposed to do and follow instructions. We know that from when he did his bio. What do I have written down for his bio? Because I was paying attention to their bios this time, and I was writing them down. I couldn't keep up with all of them 100%. He's self-employed, 2 children, ages 12, 2 children under the age of 18, 12 and 15. And I think he said he has 1 child over the age of 18. He's never served on a jury before. He's self-employed in the health insurance industry. And he also deals with retirement. And his wife and daughters own a bakery together that has multiple locations in Mesa and Gilbert and blah, blah, blah. And judge goes, hold on a second. Enough with the sales pitch. And everybody kind of laughed, but I found it kind of annoying that he's just that casual and loose, to do a sales pitch for his wife and daughters. He even named the bakery. I didn't write it down. I didn't want to. I didn't care. Plus, they were going through these bios so fast, I was not keeping up with all of the information. But he did a little sales pitch for his wife and daughter's bakery, and I found that annoying in a courtroom setting where somebody could spend 25 years to life in prison. I find it very annoying. He was nonchalant. He was nonchalant. JP, I don't know I couldn't identify who the lady was that said that. So I honestly don't know. That's maybe somebody else has that information, but I didn't identify who it was that said that, and if she was one of the final 16 jurors. So then we go. So after that, that jury selection is off camera. So we got to see the hearing before the jury selection, but that's all that you guys got to see on camera. Sidebar, judge finds, court recesses. Oh, I forgot to tell you, after that ibuprofen thing, and Mr. Abernathy said what he said, the judge apparently rolled his eyes. I didn't see that. I'm telling you something that somebody else that was there told me, and the judge rolled his eyes and went back out the side door. Lori put her head down and was making some type of sounds that we could all hear, but barely. But we could hear, and Nate Eaton was sitting next to me, and I go, is she sobbing? Is she crying? And he's like, that's what it sounds like. So she was crying and sobbing after that little exchange between the deputy and the judge and Mr. Abernathy and Lori somewhat. So she did her little sobbing thing. The court recesses, and during that recess, was that I got to check on Twitter about my timeline here. Yeah, right. Lawn care business. I got to check my Twitter feed here for the order of things, because at some point in time, and I think it was the lunch break. I think it was the lunch break where she had to get up and leave. This has to be it. So she's still sitting there in her chair after this. I'm going to check Twitter so I don't give out false information, because I did a thread today. Like I do a live thread on X where I start from the very beginning of the day, and then I try and post updates to just that thread all through the day so you can follow it chronologically. So follow JS_media88 on X if you want to see live trial updates. And it's kind of a balancing act that I think I'm getting pretty decent at. Trace, you can't be spilling secrets before I get to that chronologically. You're telling things and I haven't got there. Like I got to do things chronologically, Trace. You can't be talking about stuff before I get there. You got to wait. Dizzy, don't be posting her comments if they're like spilling secrets before we get there. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Oh, you're spilling my secrets. You're ruining my surprise. All right, we're going to look at the feed today, and I'm going to double check exactly when what I'm about to talk about went down. Okay, it wasn't this time, so it was for lunch break. So I'm glad I didn't talk about it yet, because I got to have, no spoilers. No spoilers, Dizzy. I got to have things in chronological order. So, the judge introduced himself and his staff and his amazing. So there's a courtroom assistant and then there's a judicial assistant. And the courtroom assistant is the gal with the dark hair that just is all over, and she was all over it today too. So when they do, when they have positive responses, when they go through the voir dire and they ask, would anybody have a problem with this, or does anybody feel a certain way about this? Then you raise up your placard, and she has to get them a microphone so the judge can hear their responses. So she's literally running all over the courtroom. Like she got in her 5,000 calorie workout today. So the judge reads the jury instructions, and then he begins group voir dire, which means he asks everybody a question, and any person who has a positive response to that holds up their placard, which is the equivalent of raising your hand, except it has your number on it, so he can say, okay, juror number 21, why do you feel that way about that? But before that, they do the introductions. I skipped ahead. So judge introduces himself, his court staff, and then Trina Kay introduces herself and her paralegal and the Gilbert PD detective that is seated at the table with her. So during the first trial, it was Chandler PD detective Nathan Duncan that sat with her. So she gets a detective at the table, and I didn't catch his name. I'm sure if I look on her list of witnesses, I could probably figure out who it is, but I didn't catch it. It went by so fast. But she has a Gilbert PD detective sitting at the prosecution table with her and her paralegal. And then Lori, and I was kind of worried about this because of how puny Lori sounded. That she wasn't going to be able to sound, what I was worried about, she was going to try and sound pathetic to the jury. And she might even cause a mistrial if she were to say something like, I'm sorry that I just can't sound right today, but I'll do the best I can. I'm just not feeling well. That would be an instant mistrial. Boom. Just like that. And I was worried she was going to do that. And she could have done that. And the fact that she didn't tells me that she wants out of Arizona and she wants to go back to Idaho. She does not want this. She does not want to spend any more time in Estrella, Maricopa County jail, than she has to, although she's already caused herself a couple of delays. She wants a speedy trial. She doesn't want any continuances, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't feel good enough to proceed with jury selection in this one. So one of the things I noted was the judge starts to talk to the jury now. So after Lori does hers, she does her introduction of herself and her team, and she sounds fairly strong voice, fairly, articulate. She does not sound like she did earlier when she was whining to the judge about her headache. She sounded differently, noticeably differently. So after she introduces herself, the judge starts talking about financial hardships of being a juror. And he says, if you experience loss of income, we can reimburse you up to $300 a day. Plus you get a $12 daily stipend, probably, related to food costs. Go down and get lunch for $12, which I did. So you're able to do. And then you also get reimbursed for mileage to and from court. So if you're in the outskirts of Maricopa County, that could be significant, because I think the IRS rate is what is it, 60, 65 cents, 50, somewhere between 55 and 65 cents a mile. So if it's like, if you got to come in 20 miles and out 20 miles, that's 40 miles. That's another $17 a day. Just did math in my head and I'm probably wrong, but somebody can check me, but whatever. It's more than your food reimbursement. So you get 300 plus 12 plus another, say 15, just round off to 15. So $317, $320 a day. Stipend. THX, come on. You're asking me to have proper phonetics here. Stipend, yeah. I'm from Indiana. We say stipend in Indiana. Only uneducated folks. All right. So then he talks about the court schedule, and there's going to be a revised court schedule because of what she did on Monday and having to take off Tuesday in its entirety. So we've had to adjust the court schedule by 2 days, including having to work on Friday. So we already know juror number 4 was released yesterday because he has a camping trip Friday morning. So he asks who has a schedule or who has a conflict. Juror 21 says, I have a work schedule conflict. Juror 34 says, I have an endocrinology appointment. Juror 76 says, Juror 76 says, I was thinking about moving. No, I'm saying this in a Southern accent. He didn't say it in a Southern accent, but I'm doing that because it's, he says, I was thinking about moving to Flagstaff, and I have an appointment on Saturday to go look at a new apartment. And I was thinking about also going up on Friday to look for a new apartment. And the judge says, well, when is your appointment on Saturday? And he says, whatever time it was. He's like, so are you driving up there and staying like in a hotel room or something? And juror 76 was like, no, I'm driving back and forth both days. And the judge is like, okay, thank you. But we'll find out later the judge was thinking what I was thinking. And then is there a financial hardship for any of you? Juror 71 says, I'm a 1099 employee and your court system will not reimburse me because I don't get my 1099, paperwork for my employer till the end of the year. So I cannot present something to them, to your court. So the judge says, okay. Then he asked them about presumption. Do any of you have a problem with presumption of innocence, law enforcement, the facts of evidence? Do any of you have family that are law enforcement? Do you or your family have any legal training? There was one person that said they worked in kind of like a law office as kind of a paralegal type of thing. And he said, would that, affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this? And of course she said no. Do you know of anyone else that has served on a jury? None. All right. So he has his usual questions that were very similar to the group voir dire that he had last time. And then Trina K begins her group voir dire. Same questions she had to start out last time, which is, this defendant is representing herself. So knowing that she's not an attorney, would you make her bar lower or raise the state's bar in, expectations? And nobody raised their placards. Then she asks a couple of case-specific questions, and she says this case will involve some things about the LDS religion. Do you have any problems with that? The victim drove a Tesla, and some people have a political way of thinking about people who own Teslas. Do any of you have that? Would that affect you? Nobody. And then she says, we may have to present the order of witnesses out of order of how this thing happened chronologically. Would any of you have a problem following along with it? Said you guys can keep notebooks and you can refer to your notebooks when you go to deliberations. And then, do you have any religious or personal beliefs that would preclude you from judging others? And nobody raised their placard for that. Then Lori begins hers. And the very first question she says is, does anybody recognize me? Then she asks, have you ever served on a jury? Do you have a problem presuming that I'm innocent? Do you have any non-jury court experience? These were interesting because there's a felony DUI, a custody battle, a misdemeanor DUI, a custody battle, a DUI, and divorce court. Those were the positive responses to that. And of course, the follow-up to that is, would that affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this trial? And at one point in time, when she's asking these questions of the jury, she's one of the affirmative responses requires follow-up, and it's one of the ones early on in these, all those that I just listed now. And Judge Boreski says, would you like me to follow up with that? And she responds, if you want to, like just in a very flippant manner. And I'm like, don't let this start again. Don't let this start again. But by the way, during this entire interaction with the jury, her voice is strong. She's sitting up fairly straight in her chair. She's behaving fairly normally, and she's sounding fairly normally. She's articulate. She says a couple of times when jurors have positive responses and they involve some personal detail, she goes, well, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. And I'm like, where is that Lori in this whole mess? Where is that Lori in this whole mess? Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. And then she asked, this was a funny thing to me. She asked how many people here are gun owners. So this case involves firearms. How many people here are gun owners? Probably like 35-40% of the people raise their placards. It's Arizona. There's a high percentage of gun owners. And then she goes, how many people have ever been to a gun range? And like 99% of the people raise their placards. I thought that was amusing. It is Arizona. And it's funny because this jury pool is probably pretty equally balanced between men and women. And all different ages of men and women. Friends or family served on a jury. Is there anything we haven't asked you that could affect your ability to serve on this jury? And one guy raised his hand. He said, you haven't asked me if I have any friends or family that have had to go through a legal process. And apparently he had the judge says, well, tell me about that. Would that affect your ability to serve on the jury? And he says it might. All right. So now we're at 11:47 a.m. We're right before lunch, and the jury leaves for a break. The judge dismisses them and says, okay, we're going to talk about this between the parties, and we're going to decide if we can dismiss any of you from potential jury duty. And they go through 8 of them. Juror 21, 28, 34, 76, 67, 79, 72, 84. So that one that I just said that he had a problem, I didn't write that one down, but he was one of the ones. And they just said, out of an abundance of precaution, we're going to dismiss him. And then I have to read from my Twitter on this, because the way that this goes down for selecting the jurors to get rid of, and I talked about this a little bit on my lunch live, is he says, this is my opinion about this juror that had a positive response. How does the state feel about it? And the state says, we agree. that he or she should be precluded. How does the defense feel about it? And Lori's voice drops to nothing. And after a couple times of that, the judge says, I would just like to note that when the jury is present, the defendant can talk and act normally, but as soon as the jury left, but what he said was something like, apparently now she can't speak. So there was that. Like he's officially putting on the record. There you go, Trace. If I could find your old comment that you put up there, he put on the record. He did put that on the record that her behavior is ridiculous. Her voice, her acting. Okay, so it's lunch break. I go down and I do my lunch live. We're down. So we started with 51 on the day. We got rid of 8. So we have 43 left. So that means there are more seats for the public to come in and sit after lunch, and more people get to come in. Yeah, so I wrote down the exact quote that I wrote down were that her voice, appearance, and mannerisms are perfectly normal in front of the jury, but now apparently she can't speak. That's what she resorted to after the fact. So we have jury selection afterwards. Do we need like a little bit of a interlude in here? Like a little bit of a jury selection break, or do you guys want me to keep going through the day and get through it? Let me get back to StreamYard. Everybody's having their own little party in chat, and I'm missing it. Yeah, salty, right? On the record. He didn't say on the record, but it was on the record. Yes. Let me just note that her voice and mannerisms are perfectly normal in front of the jury, and now all of a sudden she can't speak when the jury's gone. So she can muster the courage. Yeah, and when they had that little sidebar about how she was feeling, I don't know, did I note this earlier? Did I talk about this earlier? Yeah, I did on my noon update. When they came back from that little sidebar before the earlier break, he said the victim, when he made the decision to proceed today, he said the victim is the defendant is perfectly capable of making an argument for herself, to not have to attend court today. And if she's capable of that, then she's capable of proceeding with these proceedings. I'm summarizing, not word for word. Yeah, it's crazy. Lori, let me do this. So the rest of jury selection really doesn't have a whole lot of involvement from her, because the way that Judge Boreski handles jury selection is those 18 people in the box. So after he gets rid of the 8, there's 43 left, and 18 of them sit in the jury box, and 16 of those 18 are going to be the jury unless the state or the defense has a particular problem, like a legally defendable problem with them. So Lori didn't. She just sat there, and whenever the judge asked her about any particular of those 18 in that box, she did not respond at all. At all. So hold on. I have one video that I want to play just to give us a little bit of a break. And this is going to be the video from Monday's hearing. And I know other creators and Justin Lum have moved these squares around so they're a little easier to see, but The resolution is horrible, but the sound is good on this one that I got directly from the court. So we're going to watch this 13 minutes of what happened Monday after Judge issued his order for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to bring her to court if it was even kicking and screaming. He didn't say kicking and screaming. I just said that.
All right, this is the time set for continuing jury selection, State of Arizona versus Lori Vallow, CR 2022-001242. Appearances, please.
Attorney Kay, on behalf of the state and for the record, the victim is in the victim room.
All right. Ms. Vallow.
No, in the courtroom, sorry.
Lori Vallow for the defense.
All right, are we ready to proceed with jury selection?
No,
Why not?
I'm sick, Your Honor. I've been sick all weekend. I let my team know yesterday I was sick.
Can you please pull the microphone a little closer? I can't hear you very well.
I'm sick. I've been sick.
Have you put in tank orders to get treatment?
Yes.
Are you being housed in the infirmary?
Nope, I'm housed where they put people in quarantine anyway. I'm housed alone. They would not move me from where I am.
Have they tested you for any communicable diseases?
No.
All right.
You asked me to let my team know. I let them know yesterday at 9 a.m. that I was still
Well,
very ill.
Sometimes.
Okay. So this is where my experience as a parent comes into play, and her reminding me of a kid trying to get out of school for some reason is what she reminds me of, because she told them on Sunday at 9 a.m. that she was sick. And if my kid told me on Sunday at 9 in the morning that he was ill and wasn't going to be able to make it to school on Monday, I'd be like, oh, really? You know that like 24 hours in advance that you're still going to be sick, too sick to go to school? No, we're going to work on that today. We're going to work on that today. We're going to see where you're at in 20 hours. We're going to see how you feel in the morning. So her saying, well, I told them Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning means pretty much next to nothing. The judge did tell her on Friday when she fell ill at noon or over the lunch break and couldn't continue, tell your team, and that's when he used the word quarantine, tell your team as soon as possible if you don't think you're going to be able to make it to court Monday. But Sunday at 9 a.m., I'm a little skeptical.
We're in positions where we have to proceed when we feel under the weather.
It's not just under the weather. I'm very ill.
Do you have copies of tank orders you put in for treatment?
Not with me. I put it in on the tablet.
Is the DO able to check whether any tank orders were put in? What's that?
I think it takes about 24 hours.
They haven't even answered my tank order yet. It takes them a long time.
him just sitting here thinking about this girl. What do I do with this lady? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
So what symptoms are you having?
I have a terrible headache. I have nausea. I have chills. I have a fever, probably. I have
A fever,
been able to
probably?
keep very much down besides broth and oranges.
I have a fever, probably. Oh, once again. Oh, what do I do with this? 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 This poor guy.
Would you be willing to have one of your advisory councils complete the 40-year process jury selection?
Would that waive my ability to represent myself for the rest of the trial?
No.
Then can I have a moment to discuss with them for a second?
A couple things. I'm your trial judge. My instructions are to complete your second trial. So even if for some reason your sickness worsened and we weren't able to complete this trial and had to declare a mistrial as this trial, even if this case got delayed into June or July or August to be reset, I'd still be your trial judge.
All right, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. We all know what went down. We all know. So this time around on jury selection, I took much better detailed notes of the makeup of the jury. They're still not 100% complete. They're probably like 80% complete because when they're reading their bios, it goes so fast that the human hand can't keep up. Now, when I'm sitting in the media row, which I did today, the other people are on their laptops and it's clickety, 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 clickety. And I don't even know if I could type on my laptop faster than I can write with my hand. It's a good question I'm going to have to figure out. So let's take a look at the makeup of the jury based upon the notes that I was able to take for these 16 people. So 8 men and 8 women. Juror number 1 is a woman, an unemployed college student. She's single and she's never served on a jury before. Juror number 2 is a technician of some kind, married, 2 children, ages 15 and 9. Never served on a jury before. Juror number 3 is a man that is an elected official of a nonprofit organization. Am I giving too much information? I don't think I'm giving detailed biographical information that is going to dox any of these guys, right? You guys okay with that? He's divorced and he has 5 grown children. You can't dox people off of the information that I wrote down in my notes for this this is so there's a standard juror questionnaire. There's a placard that they print out with basic questions about what is your job? How long have you been at your job? Are you married? Do you have any children? If you're married or have a significant other, what is their job? And have you ever served on or do you have children? And if you have children under the ages of 18, and I wonder if that's specific to this trial. No, it's not. What are their ages? And have you ever served on a jury before? Juror number 4 is another woman. She's like a surgery tech or something. She's been a surgery tech for like 14 years. She's a registered nurse. She is married. She has no children, and she served on a jury for a similar trial. Juror number 5 is a self-employed plumber. Has been for 27 years. Not married, no children, and has never served on a jury before. Juror number 6 is the branch manager for Arizona something credit union. I wrote down ACCU. I'll remember as A and CU is Arizona Credit Union. Single, never served on a jury before. Juror number 7 is a male. He's been working for DoorDash since the beginning of May. He's single and never served on a jury before. Yeah, me too, Denise. Me too, Denise. Oh yeah, there was a question earlier. Do you think there's a juror 15 in this one? I honestly, so once juror 85 went away and was dismissed, I did not pick up any juror 15 vibes from this pool, from this jury. Missy Ann, I think it's a pretty good mix of jurors. It's from the very young to the very old. And I'm going to get to one of the jurors here that is really old. Like he's, I'm probably not going to live to be as old as he is right now. He was a veteran in the Vietnam War, for real. Non-combat veteran. He kept pointing out multiple times. I'm like, dude, you served in the Navy during Vietnam. All right. Anyway, so we got DoorDash. Was juror number 7, but I feel, I mean, it's half, 8 men and 8 women. Most of them appear to be Caucasian, so there's not a lot of ethnic diversity in this jury pool. I don't think that matters. I mean, if I were like a minority on trial here, I might have a problem with it. But she's not a minority except in her looniness, in her craziness, and in her ability to leave bodies in her wake and suck the live energy out of multiple people. So I was talking with another reporter today, just side note, real quick, side note story. I'm sitting with the media now. I'm in the media pool. And one of the other media members asked me, so how do you feel about this? And I was like, she just needs to be found guilty and go away. And he's like, right, but he didn't say right. I said right. He said, but for a media person, you're killing the golden goose. And I was like, that's an interesting aspect of it and an interesting dichotomy that someone in my position has to deal with, because I believe in justice for JJ and Tylee and Charles and Tammy and Brandon. And that was one of the questions during jury voir dire that Trina K asked was, the charge is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. And just because the victim is still alive, does that mean that you don't think, does anybody think that means that there can't be a conviction for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder? And nobody raised their card on that. But I'm here for justice. I'm here to see justice for the victims. So that versus, I mean, there's no golden egg for me from this goose. There's just justice. And we're going to get there. Yes, and Joe Janelle, right. Man. Yes, we're closing the final chapter. We're going to close it. How many people breathed a deep sigh of relief when Judge Bareski said, we are proceeding with jury selection today, whether you like it or not. You have a headache is not an excuse for us not to proceed with jury selection today. All right. Juror number 8 was a female, and I wrote almost nothing down about her. I don't have a job or a marital status. All I have is 5 children and never served on a jury before. So my hand was starting to cramp at this time because I'm trying to keep up with all this bio information from all these people. And I couldn't keep up. I should, okay, I'm going to show you. This is embarrassing, but I'm going to show you like the top of my page to the bottom of my page, how sloppy it gets. Like, oh, it disappears. It disappears with the virtual background. Like, look at the top versus the bottom. I mean, the top is already sloppy enough, but the bottom is like almost illegible. So juror 8 is a female, juror 9 is a male. He's in the printing industry, never been married, but he does have 1 child. Oh, he's not married, has 1 child. So I don't know if that means he's divorced or if he never married his baby mama. 1 child, age 13, never served on a jury. Juror number 10. Juror number 10 is the most fascinating juror to me, and not in like the juror 15 Carl aspect. He is ancient. Like, he served in the U.S. Navy during the Vietnam War. He was a lieutenant commander. He retired from the Navy, and then he worked with some kind of a missile program, and he worked enough years at that place. So it had been another 25 years before he retired from that. And his wife was a school teacher for 44 years before she retired. So, and I think he mentioned the years they retired, and it wasn't like in the recent past. It was like 2013 or 2009. I mean, it was a good 10 years ago that they retired. I noticed him from day one. I did. And I'm like, this guy's going to be an interesting character, and it will be interesting to see how he interprets Lori and her behavior and her lack of a case and her lack of witnesses. And Jamie, it was yesterday. It was. And this guy is a character, and I would love to have an interview with him. Yeah, he's got a lot of wisdom and life lessons. Absolutely. Yep. He is an elder, and I will be fascinated to see how he views this case and the prosecution case and the lack of a defense case when it's all said and done. I really am going to want to interview this guy. Like, he's my number one interviewee target when this thing all wraps up. Probably not going to get to, but I may have another interview lined up. I'm not going to tease that yet because it's not set yet. So there may be something really cool happening in the near future. I hope it happens with another interview with another juror from another trial. There we go. I said too much already. Capri Law, look at you. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that very much. We're working on trying to produce more members only content. When I go down there early one day, I'll maybe do like a members only live that says like, okay, when I get here before the sun's up, check out my walk to the courthouse, check out the steps at the courthouse before the sun comes up. All right, juror number 11 is another female. She does something working with government contractors. I'm not sure what. I don't remember. they say it so fast that I can't follow all of it. She's married. She has a 27 or a 21-year-old child, never served on a jury. She did mention twice that she has filed for divorce and that her soon-to-be ex-husband is unemployed. I thought that was funny. Juror number 12 is a male. He's worked for EPCOR for 6 years. He's married. He has, Hope Grace. I'm going to finish out with this juror, though, before I get sidetracked. I get sidetracked so easily, but I appreciate the generosity, and I will mention it again in a second, but I can't get sidetracked. I've been told today that I get sidetracked too easily by that stuff. He has 2 children, ages 13 and 8, and he's never served on a jury. Yeah. Yes, JB, the jury has been sworn in. We got to it today. We got to it today by a little bit after 2:00. It went fast. And part of that is because she's representing herself and she has nothing to say. She has nothing to say about objecting to any of these. She exercised her strikes before we got to the 68, and she has said nothing after that. Juror number 13 is a male. He's a mechanic at a Toyota, a local Toyota. Single with no children and never served on a jury before. Juror number 14 is a bartender. That's an interesting one. She's single. She didn't say about children. I assume single with no children, and she's never served on a jury. So we have a bartender there. So we're almost to the end of this. That was juror 14. Juror 15 is a housewife. Listen to this because it struck me as interesting based on a couple of the facts of this case and the location of this case and the predominant religion in this case. She's a housewife. She's married. She has 6 children. One of them is over the age of 18, and the other 5 are ages 15, 14, 13, 12, and 8. She's a housewife with 6 children, one of them over the age of 18, and the other 5 are 15, 14, 13, 12, and 8. So I had to take a pause there, and because I took that pause, I didn't write down the bio data of juror number 16, except she's single and never served on a jury. That's all I got for her because I was so fascinated with juror number 15. A housewife with 6 children. The middle 4 are ages 15, 14, 13, and 12. Oh, she's got her hands full, and now she's going to have to serve on a jury, but it's going to be a short trial. So, it's going to be a short trial. So she shouldn't be too, she shouldn't have too much hardship from it. They're of the age now where those teenagers can definitely watch each other and watch the 8-year-old, I would imagine. It's summertime, so just stay out of trouble, kids. Go play video games. Go ride your bike. Do kids ride bikes anymore? I don't even know. So I missed juror 16's biographical information because I was so fascinated with juror 15. Maybe she's my number 2 target for an interview. Like, I want to interview her next after juror number 10. There's my 2 top targets. Jamie, you know she is. You know she is. She's like, can't we make this like a 3 or 4 week trial? Get me out of the house just a little bit more. Young Black Economist, welcome in. It's been a minute or two since I've seen you on the YouTube streets. Good to see you. Yeah, there were a lot. Yeah, right, Salty. There are actually a lot of normal sounding jurors on this panel with a variety of biographical information, but all, fairly well put together. Like, they're capable. Yeah, I mean, the only unemployed one that I saw in there was the college student. So there were some other unemployed ones in the rest of the jury pool. Not a whole lot of them. Oh, Jay Lee Cox, you're asking me. I think I kind of answered that. Yeah, I kind of answered this before. Dripping honey, was she dripping honey? So that was when in individual voir dire, when she would say something, she said it like 3 times to 3 different jurors. So one of her questions was, how many of you have extensive knowledge about firearms? And one was the male, and there were 2 females. And actually, I think he ended up on the jury, the one male whose father was a gunsmith. I think he might have been. Let me check my notes, because he was definitely in the jury box, and I think he was juror number 3. Or yeah, I think he was juror number 3. He said his father was a gunsmith when he was growing up, and so that's how he got to become very familiar with firearms. And of course, judge steps in and says, well, could that influence, your ability to be fair and impartial in this? But she said, your father was a what? And he goes, a gunsmith. And she goes, oh, a gunsmith. Not dripping honey, but definitely more bippity boppity than an attorney would respond to that. Oh, a gunsmith. Okay. And then, of course, her other comments, when somebody would answer, would have a positive response, which a positive response is a negative thing. That means that they would maybe not be able to be fair and impartial. And she'd go, well, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. And like I said at lunch, I can't imitate her very much, but you can hear it in your head. The old guy's daughter is a local homicide detective. Nikki, what? Let's not give out any personal information, but if that was revealed in trial, was he one of the positive responses that he gave during the thing? Because I missed some of those individual responses before they got to the bio. So if that came out during the group voir dire, I missed it, and that's really interesting information. Wow, that would be crazy. That would be crazy information. And if that came out in the jury voir dire, whether it's group voir dire or individual voir dire, then her not striking that, lawyer Lori strikes again, or doesn't strike again. Okay, so some documents that came down also in the last couple of days were some subpoenas that Lori sent out for her defense witnesses, and process servers went out to try and serve. So do you guys want to take a look at those? Or let's see, we've been here for an hour and 49. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at those. It shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, and then we can wrap it up around the 2-hour mark. That's like 11 o'clock East Coast time. That's getting late. Let's take a look at these subpoenas. Some of them are very similar to what happened. That's an order. I don't want the order. That's not it. Yeah, that is it. Okay, that's it. Okay, so I have redacted these as much as I can for personal information like license plates and individual addresses. I need to get rid of that. And let's take a look at these subpoenas per defense process servers sent out in the last days of May and the beginning days of June. It's like May 29, 30, 31, and June 1 and 2 is when these process servers went out. So look who's on the very first one. Boop, boop, boop. Melanie Gibb. She sent out a process server to serve a subpoena on Melanie Gibb. And it says the hearing date is June 3rd. This is the 2022 case. So he went out on May 30th, May 31st, June 1st. The house was quiet and there was no answer at the door. No cars and neighbors to the left. The neighbors to the left didn't answer. The next day, the house was quiet. There was no answer at the door. No cars and neighbors at a certain address didn't answer. The house was quiet. There was no answer at the door. No cars and the neighbors on the other side didn't answer. So that's the process server there. Charged $80. That's interesting. Rush fee, $25. She paid a $25 rush fee on these subpoenas. So she still doesn't understand the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure. I'm pretty sure these people should have been served 30 days ago at least, because the trial is starting. She's having these served a couple of days before the trial, and they're probably going to be precluded. I wonder who's paying for that. Who pays for her process server and rush fee? Yeah, Janelle, your old friend was smart enough not to be home when the process server showed up. The house was empty and quiet, no cars in the driveway. Yeah, can I just tell you how let down I was at Melanie when the truth came out? Yeah, that's a tough one. So if you didn't see it before during the first trial, Janelle and I had a little interview together and a little heart to heart, and she told us a little bit about her story, and she has a book that's out too that tells her story as well. It tells more of the story than we could cover in the interview. So check that out. Yeah, I can imagine. So number 2, Lonnie Dworkin. You know who Lonnie Dworkin is? He is her expert witness. She has to subpoena her expert witness? Why would you have to subpoena your expert witness? But his address is a UPS store. We cannot serve this address. They just, it never ends. The incompetency of her representing herself never ends. But yes, here we go. I'm going to pause a minute to talk about that. Janelle's book is called Walking Through the Doomsday Darkness, as I've seen it. And Janelle, you have to go into a special part of Amazon Books to find it, like in through the religious section, I think. Put that in there and I'll pop that up real quick. Lonnie Dworkin's address is a UPS store. We cannot serve this address. Good grief, lady. Samantha Raybuck. Somebody told me once who that was, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but The responses on May 30th and 31st and June 1st, the house was quiet. No answer at the door, no cars. Neighbors didn't answer. The house was quiet. There was no answer at the door, no cars. The house was quiet. There was no answer at the door, no cars, and neighbors don't know the survey. All right, I'm going to check chat because I wonder if somebody in chat knows who Samantha Raybuck is. No. Lonnie Dworkin is the cell phone expert that actually worked with her investigator, Jeff White, to try and get the gray key data from Chandler PD in the other trial from Charles's phone. Jeff White was not there today. He's the dude with the hair that gets like feathered back. Like that's his intentional look, is the hair feathered back. Sitting with her at the defense table on the right side is Mr. Abernathy, who is co-advisory counsel. That's the only other guy that's on her team. And Jeff White was not there today. No, Lonnie is not her investigator. That's Jeff White. He's the cell phone expert that would go up against who's the one that's going up against Cyree Salty? My mind just went blank in Idaho. He's the same guy that's testifying for the against Cyree in Idaho. Yes, he did work with the investigator. The investigator, Jeff White. Yes, Nick Balance. Thank you. Good grief. They worked together for 4. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Getting that up there. Yeah, Nick Balance. Lonnie Dworkin is like the defense side of Nick Balance in this case. Samantha Raybuck, I still don't remember who that is. I've got the witness list buried in my docs somewhere. We may need to take a look at that after this. By the way, thank you all for hanging. I appreciate it. And thanks for all your comments. So that's another defense witness. And look who we have here. Zulema Pastenes. He tried to serve her on May 30th, May 31st, and June 1st. This is kind of amusing. I could hear sounds and movement inside the residence. The garage door was open with Toyota Camry redacted license plate. I did that. I actually got the license plates from the court documents and I redacted those. And thank you, Megan, for helping me see why we should be doing that when we publish these documents. There was a Honda in there with a different license plate, obviously. Package for Survey and neighbors to the left confirmed. Survey lives there. So he's at the house checking out packages on their front porch. He's like picking up packages and saying, oh, yep, this is Zulema's house. That's... Do they have the right to do that? Is that a violation of some kind? I would feel violated if some process servers coming up to my house and picking up my packages and checking them out. That's in my curtilage. If that's on the front porch, that's in your curtilage. I would have a problem with that. Then on May 31st, I could hear sounds and movement inside the residence. The same Toyota Camry was there. And then on June 1st, the house was quiet and there was no answer at the door and no cars. Well, yeah, yeah, they can Google your address, but Google addresses isn't always right. Picking up your packages off your front porch is a different story. Janelle, that's a good point. So here's the question, Janelle. If they have something to offer, why didn't the state call them? Is that because maybe the state has a good enough case without them? Is it because they're still being investigated for possible charges? I find that doubtful, but possible. Or is it because they didn't have anything to offer to the state for prosecuting Lori? And why is she calling them in? I mean, we know why she called Nancy Joe in, and that was just to find out what they talked about on their date the night before Alex murdered him. We know why she called Nancy Joe. So is that like... But Zulema and Melanie Gibb were her friends and not a romantic rival. So it's not the same reason Lori's calling them in this case. She apparently thinks that they are relevant in some way. I think Zulema and Melanie actually... Okay, Zulema and Melanie might have actually been on the original state's witness list. And when Judge pressed her in a pretrial hearing about why they were relevant, she said because they were on the state's witness list. Detective's daughter, yeah, there's still time. I mean, there is a statute of limitations on some of the crimes, on the fringe of this. So you got to wonder how much time there is. So it's... this all happened in late 2019, so we're coming up on 6 years. I think there are a lot of things that the statute of limitations is around 7 years, if I remember right. So they got to be filing charges within the next 12 months if they plan on it. Good point. Good point, Carolina. All right, so that's page 4 out of 5, and then she got a successful service on one of her witnesses that I don't know who the heck this guy is either. And once again, so I'm going to have to go live, or I'm going to have to ask Kresha. Maybe I'll ask her in a non-live who these witnesses are. Weaver Barkman. I served the aforementioned documents on Weaver Barkman in Tucson in the manner set below by personally serving true copies, being of suitable age and discretion. It's an interesting verbiage. I haven't seen a lot of these service documents. The description of the person actually served, we don't need to go over that. The affiant declares under penalty of perjury that I am fully qualified pursuant to rule blah, 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 blah. All right. So that's it of the civilian witnesses. So we also got service on Detective Moffat, successfully served by one of our process servers at the police department. So there's no sensitive information there, but we also don't need to look at it. It's not that interesting. But Detective Moffat got served. But all of these are in the last 2 or 3 days, and the state has not had a chance to interview these witnesses. Well, Weaver Barkman and Detective Moffat, I think there may have been one more successful service. That's it's so crazy. She wanted to play Lori, and she got to play Lori, but is she really doing this to play Lori or just to have her moment in the spotlight? And then she got it the second time and didn't want it. There's all kinds of ways to look at this. No, the state never called him. That's right. Detective Nathan Duncan was on the list before Detective Moffat, and Detective Nathan Duncan ended up being the last state witness in the last trial. And I wonder if that caught her off guard. And she had some questions that she wants to ask him. Yeah, Detective Moffat, I think he's the one that originally was the case investigator or the lead investigator for Charles's death. And then he retired, and that's when Detective Nathan Duncan took it over. I think that's how the story goes. So Moffat was in charge of it originally, and then I think Detective Duncan said that when he retired, he basically came over and dropped off the case file on his desk and said, "I'm out," which was a pretty funny moment in court. A few of us giggled at that. Moment in spotlight, interrogate people, provide a show. Yeah, but it's a complicated, convoluted mess. She's not getting her way with Judge Boreski. He refuses to let her get her way, and she keeps throwing fits. All right, let's take a look at the stars we have on here. You know what? When you talk about the statute of limitations and Chandler and Gilbert and the two trials that we just had and are going to have now, the prosecutor didn't press charges. So all these happened in 2019, and the prosecutor didn't press charges until 2021 and 2022. So she's not the only one who wasn't prompt in dealing with things in these cases. That's all right. We'll let's see. Jury has a lot of depth to it. Yep, hold on. Jury has a lot of depth to it. I agree. There is a wide range of ages. It's equally balanced gender-wise, a wide range of careers and professions and life experiences. I agree. It's a good balanced jury. I have faith in it. I have faith in our system. Yeah. Right. She is totally unaware. Hope Grace, thank you so much for that super sticker. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Yes, and thank you for the lunch super stickers and super chat I got too. You know what? You never know, because I don't see a Carl in this group, but there's an eclectic mix of interesting lifestyles, like the dude on the top row far left. So I think that would be juror 9. Let me see my notes on juror 9. He's been in printing for 3 years, never married, one child, age 13. He had on a do-rag. Interesting character. Trace on the case has a name for him. No, I'll let her bring that up sometime when she's listening. But he's the exact opposite of the guy on the opposite end of the jury, seated in the front row on the far right, which is that really old guy with Navy experience, retired from 2 Navy experience and missile something experience, retired from both jobs, and his wife was a school teacher for 44 years. It's an eclectic mix, but the way she's acting, so let's summarize what's going on next. Opening statements tomorrow at 10 o'clock. These will be televised. I will be there in court also. The television feed stream will be delayed by 30 minutes. So if you want to see updates a little more real time, I will be posting them on X. But opening statements. In the last trial, Trina K's opening statement was about an hour. I'm predicting right now it's going to be about 45 minutes, but you never know. She is super confident. Like, You see it when you see her. She is super confident. And Lori is the opposite. Lori is weak. She looks weak. She sounded weak until the jury came in. And she didn't look as weak when the jury came in. But remember, in her opening statements in the last trial, she got up to the podium and she's acting like she can't even walk to the podium now. So at lunch, I didn't tell this story. I didn't tell this part of the story. I didn't put it in my notes. At lunch, when we all broke for lunch, Nate and Justin and I and one other reporter stayed in the courtroom for an extended period of time after everybody else left, because Lori did too. Lori stayed at her desk until the courtroom was almost entirely cleared out, and she took so long that the deputy came over to get her and say, hey, we got to go. It's break time. She slowly gets up and she slowly walks to the door, but she's walking under her own power. But her head is bowed and her long hair is like over her face, like hiding her face. Like she just looks so pathetic, but she did walk out of court under her own power. And in the first trial, she stood up at the podium to address the jury in her opening statement. And if she doesn't do that tomorrow, I wonder what impact that will have on the jury. I wonder what impact that will have on the jury if she doesn't get up and stand at the podium to deliver her opening arguments. But it was only 15 minutes long. But can she stand under her own power for 15 minutes according to how she looked today and how she's acting? No, she had to be wheeled in a wheelchair on Monday. Does that mean she's convalescing now because she could actually walk under her own power today and not be wheeled in a wheelchair? Yep, that's a good question. Is there one question? Is there one juror? I don't know. I do have the defense witness list. Do you all want to see that? Do you guys want to see the defense witness list? I have it. I can show it real quick, but we got to be wrapping this up for too much longer. And I don't want to bore anybody to death, but that's going to take me, it's going to take me probably like 90 seconds if I have it labeled. Defense witnesses. Minute entry defense witnesses in this cause. Wow, I don't even think that took me 90 seconds. Dang, I'm good. Oh no, that's a minute entry. I did a touchdown celebration too fast, folks. I did a touchdown celebration too fast. You shouldn't celebrate before you cross the goal line because you could fumble. And I just fumbled. But now I got it. I picked it back up. Now we're across the goal line. We got there. Present. Share screen. Window. Toot, toot. Okay, here we are. This is recorded on May 13th. It may or may not have been filed by her on May 13th. Defendant's Supplemental Rule 15.2 Notice of Defenses and Defenses. It is getting late. Defenses. She's got some defenses to present. Expert witnesses. The defense notices the following witnesses. The defendant. What? Oh, she's not noticing herself. She's noticing the court that she could be a defendant. Okay. That took me a second. Any and all individuals, including but not limited to victim assistance caseworkers and or volunteers who have spoken with any witnesses in this case. All witnesses So she's including all witnesses listed in the state's Rule 15.1 disclosure, as well as in any supplemental witness disclosure filings. The custodian of records for any and all exhibits. Lonnie Dworkin, Weaver Barkman, Detective Moffat, Jeffrey White. Oh, we didn't see a subpoena for Jeffrey White. That is her investigator. Jeffrey White is her investigator that worked with Lonnie Dworkin for 4 hours one morning to try and get the gray key data figured out from Chandler PD. Melanie Gibb and Zulema Pastenis. So that other gal that was in that one subpoena is not on this witness list, dated May 13th, 2025. What was her name? Samantha Raybuck. Somebody find out who Samantha Okay, I got a job to do. Somebody, I'm telling somebody, and I'm me. So that's it. Those are the witnesses. Let me go back to that one. Besides her generic, idiotic list that is way too broad to be noticeable, she has 6 witnesses listed and not that Samantha Raybuck chick person. Interesting, folks. So, got your question answered. Thank you for that question. I was actually going to go look at that. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight for this. Thank you, Dizzy, for hanging around. I know it's been a long day for you. And thank you, Forrest. Thank you very much, Forrest. I appreciate you and your generosity and you being a mod in here and helping out. And thanks to everybody in chat. Thanks, Detective's daughter, for helping to mod also. And back when Trace on the Case was still in chat. Apparently she's not anymore. Haven't heard from her for a while, and I guarantee you we would have. She could have crashed. Today was a long day. Today was a very long day. It started very, very early. And tomorrow is going to start early too, because opening statements mean that there are going to be a lot more people here. Like opening statements last time for the last trial was like 150% bigger than any other day besides closings, besides verdict day. So thank you all. Thanks, chat. Thank you, everybody who was generous tonight. That's funny. I should stand on the steps. I stand on the steps every morning, but I should actually take a picture of the steps without people on it, because when I sit here like this, I see people behind my head and it bugs me. It's like, no, get out of the way. Get out of the way. But I did take a picture this morning with a new background that looks like I'm standing where Carl was standing. I just didn't have time to get it ready for tonight. But I'm going to stand where Carl stood next time I have a live. Everybody have a wonderful night. Stay tuned to Twitter tomorrow for live updates. And at the end of the night, we're going to have a dual stream with Trial TV Live to recap opening statements and beginning witness testimonies. We heard today that Trina K postponed everybody, all of the witnesses that have to fly into town. She postponed to next week. So that means her witness schedule, the state's witness schedule, list and schedule is all jumbled up and mixed up now. So it's only going to be local witnesses that testify this week. So I would guess that Friday is going to be a half day at the most. I'm just guessing right now. And we'll probably go, the state will probably go at least 2 days next week. But then Lori is going to go half a day and jury deliberations are going to go half a day. Everybody have a good night, get some good sleep, and tell somebody you love them. or your fur baby. Tell your fur baby you love them. Take care of
Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Oh, we can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime.